Yo, what is up, YouTube? It's your boy Armand back again for another review for E equals MCU. And today we're going to be finishing up the Wandavision series review. Now, I did the episode 5 review and posted it. Yes, a friend of mine, Philip Hawkins, suggested I just do it all in one. So make sure to check out his channel. He does everything pop culture, not just Marvel MCU stuff. He does everything pop culture. He's got a great setup, great views, does great reviews. Make sure to check out his channel. But he suggested it's like you may as well go ahead and do all of the episode reviews in one. So that's what I'm gonna do here. So I wanted to go over. This is my way too late WandaVision review because I was out for a time. I missed a few months with things, not being able to really speak for a while after getting out of the hospital with COVID. So I'm back up and running and just kind of wanted to give some of my thoughts on this, even though it's way after the fact and I know things have changed. So real quickly, just going into episode 6. That was probably my favorite episode. It was the Halloween episode, and they're dressed up in their old comic book costumes. You got a lot of things at play here. Now, this is a show that's week to week. It's mysterious. You have Wanda being, kind of apprehensive about her brother being back and if it's really him. There's a couple things there. You got Vision apprehensive about Wanda and what's going on in the Hex and how people have no control and that sort of thing. It was like I think it was the Malcolm in the Middle episode where they were really the intro, they kind of nailed with the kids and everything, and then you have the kids kind of narrating it. This was probably the best episode because it was up to the reveal. They're setting all of these things in place, and at the time we don't know what's paying off, what's not paying off, or whatnot. So notable things from this, I do wonder. There was the part of the episode where she's asking him questions and he's telling her about their past, and I kind of wonder how it's just, this is Agatha controlling him. How does she know what to say or what to have him say or make him say from the memories? Because she didn't really pull the memories from Pietro, which is funny because he says the last thing I remember is being shot in the street like a chump. So I'm assuming they're pretty much just going off of events that she knew of what happened, so she wouldn't really know anything about their childhood. So that's kind of weird. It's not really explained. I don't really, I'm gonna say this a lot on this episode. I don't want to poke too many holes in it because I think you can kind of tell with all of these episodes, they wanted to do certain things and they wanted to set it up and they just wanted to play with it. I don't think they were really worried about trying to explain it or make sense of all of it, which I think is to the detriment of the show, because that's the part of it that if they could have connected those dots, I think the show would have went down in just infamy. Like, this would have been a 10 out of 10 to most people if they could have connected this and just done a few things here and there. And I'll get to that later. But going into episode 7, that's when we get the Agatha all along reveal at the end of the show, and saying that she did the Pietro thing and his real name is Ralph Boner, and she was setting all this up. So the ending and this was probably the height of the show, because when she says all of these things and she's explaining to Wanda, and then you kind of get, oh, you're not the only magical girl in town, whoop-de-whoop, that's when you're just like, this is about to be like, this is where the reveal is supposed to come in, these next 2 episodes. This is how it's supposed to be done. And that's where the explanations of a lot of stuff she was doing doesn't make sense. In the previous episode, I did notice that when Vision was unlocking people's minds, there was the little yellow magic that goes to their minds when he touches it. And I believe when he touched her in the car, she didn't have that. So she was just acting all of that out because she knew that she was supposed to. would be my explanation for it. And then like in episode 7, as she's telling, she's got her down in the dungeon. She keeps coming over for the kids. This was like the Modern Family episode, and it was kind of funny because she didn't really, at that point, she didn't have to hide really anymore. It was like Wanda just gave her the children, which comes back to like the whole thing with the children being fake. Like I really wonder if one of the children would have tried to leave outside of the hex if they could, because Wanda told them that not to go even over by where the walls of the hex were, because I'm assuming if they tried to leave, the same thing would happen to them that would happen to Vision. So that's going to lead me to some questions at the end of the show a little bit later. But episode 7 was solid. Episode 8, I thought was still solid. I thought it was really good because, okay, she has her down in the dungeon, and then they go through Wanda's flashbacks. And the one thing I like about this episode that they did is that they filled in the gaps from the movies of the character. So it's kind of like you were told this story about Wanda, and she, Age of Ultron, her and her brother tell you the story of the Stark bomb, and they were captured by Hydra and tested on, and you knew all of these things happened, but they actually showed you in this episode by doing the flashback. And that was part of the brilliance, because I think one question they did answer that a lot of people didn't get, as for the premise of the show, why is it WandaVision? Why is it her and these old sitcoms, and like, people that want to see Vision and Wanda, the two most powerful Avengers, arguably, and they really want to see them in that kind of setting. But I thought that episode did a good job of explaining what they hinted at in previous movies about her really being and like watching TV and just, and people should understand, especially in these days with everything going on, it was escapism. And she had a rough childhood growing up in Sokovia, and for her escapism was the TV shows. So to me, that made sense. I'm glad they explained that, because to me that should make the whole show, the show's premise, make sense. And that's, this was Kevin Feige's idea, and basically Jack Schaefer and Matt, I believe it's Max Shackman, who the director was, they're trying to execute what his idea was. And I think a lot of that is the reason why some of it didn't come together, because you're given something to play with, and then you have to kind of try to bring it home. And I just, maybe they rushed it, I don't know. But I thought that was a good episode with the flashbacks. And then you get to the meat and the potatoes now, as where Agatha, who, kind of shows her character as far as what her motivations are and what she's trying to do. And she gets Wanda in the basement, and she's explaining to the audience and explaining to us how all of this works. And that's when she, goes into the dark hold and just being a witch and everything. And then it goes to the 9th episode, I believe, which was, or the 8th episode, I'm sorry, in that episode where it kind of shows her backstory as well as being a Salem witch and going through the witch trials. And what they did is they set up a lot of legwork for just witches and that kind of magic and stuff in the MCU. So it's like a lot of people are like, well, this doesn't tie into this and this doesn't tie into that. But when you think about it, it's going to have bigger ramifications later on with other movies like Doctor Strange and stuff. It's going to explain, where witches are in the MCU and just kind of put all of that together. So I thought that was great. And then we get to episode 9, and everything about episode 9 is like they're trying to bring it together, and then that's when they wanted to have their superhero moment and kind of just make that part of a big action sequence to the movie. Now, the fight between Agatha and Wanda was pretty good. It was okay. Them floating in the air, I thought they did a really good job with her catching on and being a quick learner, and throwing the magic at Agatha, and Agatha kind of absorbing it. And then like the first time I watched it, when she was throwing the magic at her and missing, I just thought she was missing. I didn't think anything of it. And then when you go back and watch, you realize she really was strategically hitting each side of the hex and putting her rules on it. And I thought that was brilliant. I thought the way that they executed that and did that was brilliant. And that all of that part was okay. Now getting to like the Vision scene and White Vision and them kind of going at it, it made sense for his character. You have to remember, as powerful as his character is, his character is very smart because he's a sentient being. So why White Vision just flew off and didn't say anything and just went his own way, I don't know. And I'm not going to pretend to know. I assume that it's something that will be explained. I do think he will probably pop back up in probably Armor Wars, or even, like, offshoot. Because here's the thing. We don't know when the next Avengers is coming, and we don't know if, he's going to be a part of that. So he'll probably pop up before that would be my thought, and with some sort of explanation. So, I think Paul Bettany was definitely wrong for misleading the audience into thinking that he was going to be working with an actor. Like, it's like, okay, you're working with yourself, okay, haha, funny, but he really misled the audience, and I think that kind of hurt. Like, if he wouldn't have said that, I don't think the whole hype for Mephisto and all of that would have been so out of hand. So he kind of threw logs on the fire on that. But the rest of the last episode kind of didn't make sense, and maybe it was because of COVID. Maybe there was some COVID things in there that kind of made that not make sense. Darcy was pretty much cut out of it. There was a scene where she pops in and hits Hayward and then just kind of disappears. And apparently there was a scene where the director said that her and Jimmy Woo and I believe Tiana Paris and Evan Peters were trying to free the kids in the basement and some sort of thing. And then there was the demon, and then that's when they showed him, which would have been Mephisto. He didn't even say it was Mephisto. He just said it would have been like a demon. To be fair, if they would have done that and didn't make it Mephisto, that would have been even a bigger mistake, because they're trying to act like they don't know who Mephisto is and his relation to the characters in the comics and stuff. But they did things to mislead you to that direction purposely. So if they, would have put that scene in, that would have been a big mistake. And I think the reason why they took it out is because I believe that they freed the kids in that scene, and that kind of messes up the setup where they went with it, because the kids are still missing or gone, or Wanda hears them, in the end credit scene, which is going to be the lead up to be explained in Doctor Strange, which there's also rumors out there that her trying to free those kids because they're in the multiverse, so it's different versions of them, I'm assuming. That's what's going to, have the whole Spider-Verse thing get kicked off, and then this is all going to come to a head in Doctor Strange, where they explain, why this happened. It's because of Wanda, what happened, all of these Spider-Man villains are here, and then Doctor Strange just got to fix it all. So whatever. And then he was supposed to have a cameo, and then they decided not to go with the cameo, blah 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 blah. I mean, it was COVID, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I understand this, whatever. And they had to get it out because Disney Plus needed something. They had went a whole year without Marvel content, so they needed something, and they needed it now, and that's what we got. So overall, well, first let me just say, okay, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda, she knocked it out of the park. She really showed her range as an actress and growth, because each episode, especially in the early episodes when they're doing themed, genre like shows for the time period, not any actor can do those things. And I think that really puts a stamp on Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios, because like there's this whole argument about what's canon, what's not canon. And the reason why the things are not canon to me is because of Kevin Feige. And the reason why it's because of Kevin Feige is because he specifically is picking out the talent as the producer that he wants to play these characters. And sometimes, we fan cast and we do things and we don't get blah, blah, blah. He's always, I think there's a pattern you can see now. He's going after not only just very talented, but very accomplished actors and actresses. They're either nominated for Emmys and Oscars, or they've won Emmys and Oscars, or, they're about to win an Emmy or an Oscar. Like, it's pretty much, the actors are all in that kind of canopy or in that kind of circle. And him casting these people is what makes Marvel Studios, because he's able to do things like WandaVision and have an actress like Elizabeth Olsen pull it off. have an actor like Paul Bettany pull it off. Now, Paul Bettany, to me, like Elizabeth Olsen, knocked it out of the park. I mean, she carried the show. She did, I think, every single episode I would say she was great in. She did all of the stuff that, she made you believe it was the 50s and the 60s and and the Silver Spoons and the Brady Bunch. And I mean, like, if you really want to see her, like, where you can really kind of tell for anybody that's younger and didn't see all these older shows, if you go and watch Modern Family and you watch Claire, and she captured her essence. She captured her body, like just that suburban mom, like that character that was Claire. She really captured that in the last episodes there of WandaVision. Like she had Claire down to her movements, her head shakes, the eyes, everything. Like she really nailed that. So hats off to Elizabeth Olsen on that. Paul Bettany, I think he was a little bit out of place. And part of it is because, he got the role. He was the voice of Jarvis. He's a very accomplished actor, but doing the things they were doing on WandaVision, to me, him being so excessively tall kind of made him awkward in some of the scenes, the way they did it. But he did a good job, I think, still bringing it home with a lot of stuff, a lot of the comedy. Like, you didn't really know he had the comedic bug, so to speak, and I think he did really well on a lot of the comedy. Now moving on, we got to say this, like, Catherine Hahn as Agnes, she stole the show. I think that she is a star, and the world is just now seeing it. Now I knew she was a star. I saw her before in We're the Millers, and she stole the show. She steals every scene that she's in, and she stole the show on that, in my opinion, in that movie. So I knew she, was on her way. It's just a matter of getting the right role with the right project, and then that puts you on a pedestal. And right now she's on that pedestal. I think she's about to blow up and get a little bit bigger as a star in Hollywood. She did a great job giving Agnes and Agatha, just making them three-dimensional. Especially showing, like, doing all of the acting that Elizabeth Olsen was doing in those period pieces. And then when it was time to turn on being Agatha, she knocked it out of the park, all sides, all facets, hats off. Another one was Tiana Paris as Monica Rambeau. I thought she stole the show for every scene that she was in. She did a great job. I knew she was a star as well from, I seen her on a show, I think it was on Stars. It was called Survivor's Remorse, and I knew she was great from seeing her in that. So it was not a surprise to me, but I think she also was about to blow up, and her star has risen, and she's going to get bigger. She's got more appearances coming up as that character, and I think she's really going to keep just blowing up. So the only thing I didn't like about her character is how it was written. And I understand she was a plot device, so she had to keep being persistent. But I did not like how she got, for lack of a better word, shitted on in a couple episodes, and still kept coming back with that friendly tone about things. You know what I mean? Like, they never really explained where her understanding to be shitted on that way would come from. They never really broke that down. Pet peeve of mine, kind of bothered me, but I understand it was part of the plot device. Now, moving on to Darcy and Agent Woo. These guys played their part perfectly. I think it's a good reinvention for Darcy to get her back involved in the MCU, so it's not just under Jane Foster. She has that history, but she can go on and do other things now, I think, as far as being in S.W.O.R.D. or popping up in any other shows they need her in. I really think they need to do an Agent Atlas or do a show surrounded around Agent Woo, because he's a great addition. He kind of fills a certain role that Coulson. See, here's the thing, and let me kind of go back to this. I know the whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing with Coulson. The idea of him having his own team, cool. And I even like the characters that they had, but that show was missing like an Agent Woo or a Darcy on that team. Like, you needed that caliber of actors, actress that they couldn't get because Marvel TV was not Marvel Studios. You didn't have Kevin Feige behind it choosing the talent, and then you didn't have the budget to really pull it off. But I think those two need a show. I love what they did. The parts they played, in the show was perfect. So and then moving on to the last, Evan Peters. He doesn't have any he doesn't really have any artwork or anything because he was a surprise. I think he did a great job. I think he's an underrated actor. It kind of sucks if they don't bring him back as Quicksilver because he does a great job with that role. And how things have gone, and especially if they're going to do the multiverse, I just don't understand why they wouldn't have set him up to be that character. And to be fair, it is left open to where he still could be. He could be Ralph Boner in this universe and could have been Quicksilver in another universe and then doesn't realize that, or however they play the multiverse. You have to wait and see how they play the multiverse to really know what they're going to do. But I would like to see that character come back. If I'm not mistaken, I think he said that he, in his contract, signed for multiple appearances, but I could be a little hazy on that. But I thought he said that, so he could return. He could be back in Multiverse of Madness, and they break it down. Because the thing about Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange, if a Deadpool or a Hugh Jackman Wolverine pops up specifically out of his universe, then I think he would be in play, and he could possibly be in that movie, and that they could kind of maybe fix this Ralph Boner thing. Because if it's one thing that Marvel Studios will do, they will go back and retcon things. They'll set things up and they'll leave it open enough to where, depending on fan reaction down the line, they can fix it. And that's kind of what they're doing with Shang-Chi and the whole Mandarin thing. They've made like stupid choices like that before, like in that instance with Iron Man 3, and then now they're going to try to go back and retcon and fix it. So it is possible. So overall, yes, I was very upset by that reveal and how that played out, but I'm still hopeful, and overall I still enjoyed the show very much. It had you hooked like no other, and I think that it's a testament to what's to come, and hopefully with things getting back to normal, they can get back on schedule and doing what they do. So overall, I'm going to give the show a 7.5 out of 10. And I'm deducting 1 point specifically just for the Ralph Boner thing. I just lost a point off top. And then the other is there were too many holes in the writing. It just like little things, like in episode 3, Wanda sees the dead corpse of Vision from Avengers Infinity War, and that kind of was to lead you down the road or the path that she stole his body from the sword facility, when actuality we find out that she just created him out of her memories and inside of her with her power. So that shouldn't have necessarily been the case or even explained that way. So there was just like little things like that in the writing where there's just holes, and they purposely misled us and then didn't try to explain it. They just part of the reason why they had you on the edge is because they purposely misled you and then didn't give you anything for any kind of explanation off of that. So that was my issue with it. So that's why I'm giving it a 7.5. But overall, I enjoyed it. I kind of want to know what you guys think down in the comment section. Like, where would you rank it out of 10? Because it's such a divisive show because of these things. So it's like, where do you rank it? Leave your comments down in the comment section. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I'm out.